Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2020 Diversity Awards virtual ceremony this year. I'm George Daley, the Dean of the Medical School. I'm delighted to see everyone here, at least virtually, today. I think it's fair to say that this is a time to celebrate and be inspired by the remarkable recipients of this year's Diversity Awards. We can be inspired by their work, their commitment, which, as you will hear, has brought meaningful change to Harvard Medical School. And the collective work of these outstanding individuals has shown how the importance of diversity and inclusion enriches all of our lives. The events of the past 2 weeks has made it abundantly clear. It's confirmed and strengthened my own conviction that the efforts to promote diversity, inclusion, and really importantly, a sense of belonging in our community, a community so that everyone feels included and able to reach their highest aspirations. That there's been no greater time to realize and assert the essential importance of all of our efforts. Harvard Medical School is committed to these goals. And I do believe that it's the dedication and the hard work of many of you in this virtual gathering, and in particular those who we're honoring today, that we have in fact made strides, and that we will continue to make progress, but that we will continue to also recognize how much more hard work has to be done. And I have championed diversity not for its own sake, although that would be enough, but it's because without diversity, we cannot achieve inclusive excellence. Excellence in education, excellence in research, excellence in patient care. We cannot be the excellent community that we expect of Harvard Medical School without placing this as a major priority. Excellence goes hand in hand with diversity. It's a prerequisite for our ability at Harvard Medical School to be leaders and to train leaders. So it's my pleasure to recognize Dr. Joan Reed, who is our major leader as the Dean for Diversity and Community Partnership. And I also want to especially recognize the participation of my colleague, John Wilson, who is the special strategist and advisor to the president, and with whom I share a tremendous privilege to serve on the academic council at the university. So I'll turn it over to Joan, but I want to thank you all today for being here and for recognizing the importance of the awards that we're going to be providing. Thank you very much. Joan.
Thank you, Dean Daley, for your welcome and for allowing me to be part of our institution, an institution that realizes the value and importance of diversity, but also takes the time to acknowledge the individuals who've led the way, who have engaged us, who have continued to move us forward as an institution. As Dean Daley has said, we're here today to celebrate the 2020 Harold Amos Faculty Diversity Award and the Sharon P. CLAYBORNE Staff Diversity Award. A little bit about them. Dr. Harold Amos was the Maud and Lillian Presley Professor of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics at Harvard Medical School. He joined the faculty here in 1954 as an instructor and became the first African-American department chair in 1968. He was also the first African-American individual to earn a doctoral degree from the HMS Division of Medical Sciences in 1952. Beyond those duties and remarkable feats, he worked tirelessly to support individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds who are committed to developing careers in academic medicine. Not only did he encourage them, but he also used his influence so that not just Harvard, but universities across our country would accept them into their academic programs. We have a very short video, but it's words from part of his admirers and colleagues. And so I asked Pinar to turn to the video.
You know, he was such a humble man. He never would talk about me as the first African-American who did my PhD here, who served as faculty member, who was chair of a department. Never.
Full scholarship to Springfield College in the mid-1930s, unique in its own right, in the service, returned here to get his PhD in the medical sciences, and then established his own prominent track record in research, but always cultivating students, cultivating young faculty behind himself.
And he was very much somebody who wanted to be proactive about the opportunity that was offered to other people in minorities, very much so.
It was really the medical people who were very strongly opposed to bringing in the African-American students to the medical school, with the argument being that we were going to bring people who were not qualified to the medical school.
And I remember there was a very serious debate. Some people were very upset or tried to water it down. And Harold stood up and very gently responded very differently, and that sort of turned, well, to some extent, turned the tide in the discussions.
He was the most wonderful gentleman, civilized human being that had a great heart, and his heart was in the right place.
He was in so many ways and another extraordinary personages within the history of Harvard medicine, a professor's professor, somebody who was also kind, committed, a researcher, an insightful individual, forever looking out for students. So all of his extraordinary life, he was called a jewel in this world.
It's very important that whoever gives the award makes sure that the recipient knows who Harold was. He was a great human, and you can be absolutely honored by the fact that this great human is the name of the award that you receive, and I would hope that you can, regardless of who you are, you can try to emulate that humanity.
Thank you. Dr. Amos was amazing. But I also want to tell you a little bit about Ms. SHARON CLAYBORNE, who began working in the medical school's financial aid office in 1981 as a staff assistant. And over the years, she received many awards for her untiring attention to students. In fact, the school's class of 1999 presented her with an award in, quote, recognition of tireless dedication to the students of Harvard Medical School. She also received the 1998 YMCA Black Achievers Recognition Award for her commitment to service on the behalf of young people and to help motivate and prepare them to pursue their educational and career goals. In addition, she received the first annual Dean's Award for Community Service for her work producing Good News, a 2-hour gospel program on the MIT radio station WMBR. Both amazing individuals. Dean Daley has mentioned that we are also joined today by a special guest. It is indeed my pleasure to introduce Dr. John Wilson, who is the Senior Advisor and Strategist to the President of Harvard University. He is truly a Harvard person. He earned his master's degrees from the Divinity School and Graduate School of Education and received his doctorate from the Graduate School of Education. Advisor Wilson is the former president of Morehouse College, former head of the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities, and former senior administrator at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He is indeed a leader, a colleague, and someone who is really a champion for advancing diversity and inclusion across all of Harvard. Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Reed, and thank you also, Dean Daley. I want everyone to know that I'm very proud to work with both Joan Reed and George Daley on this new vision for a new Harvard University. It is a privilege to work with them, and I want to say congratulations to each of the recipients for this prestigious award. It really is an honor, and you should feel it's an honor to receive an award in the name of Dr. Amos. I've been asked to use about 8 to 10 minutes, and I want to honor the time to tell you about our new agenda at Harvard University. We call it Sustainable Inclusive Excellence. And what I'd like to do is get right to it and tell you about 3 things. First, the background, how we got to this point where we have a new vision for the future of Harvard. I want to tell you a little bit about our approach, and I want to tell you about the stakes, and that's given this climate we're in right now. I want to go back to, rewind all the way back to when I believe the first year when Dr. Amos received his, became a tenured professor in 1968. And I believe Dr. Emans was a young student, a very young student at the time, one of our honorees at Harvard Medical School. But that was, and you will see how so much that has happened at Harvard to get us to this point is driven by events or incidents, because 1968 was the year in which a solid Morehouse man, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was shot and killed in Memphis. And that was a tragic event that changed the face of higher education. Now, keep in mind, Harvard and so many other institutions, since it was April 4th, 1968, Harvard had just admitted their classes to enter in September 68. So as the history goes, out of pangs of conscience, for the next year, full year plus, they started recruiting students in places and in cities and schools they had never been in before. And the enrollment of African Americans in particular and other minorities increased by tenfold. And so diversity came in a flash as stimulated by an event. Fast forward to 2015. Drew Faust is serving as president, and she becomes concerned that everyone is not able to thrive. And her recognition of this was stimulated by, again, events. There were 2 events on campus. There was a seal controversy at the law school, and there was an I too am Harvard movement by some students. And then there was also the Charleston massacre and the Black Lives Matter movement. And she saw all 4 of those happening around the same time, 2015, 2016. And she recognized, she and her leadership team recognized that, you know what? Everyone at Harvard is not able to thrive. Everyone is not able to do their best work while becoming their best selves. We need to do something. She set up a task force. They spent a year examining this issue. I had finished my presidency at Morehouse and was at the Ed School as a scholar in residence, writing a book, minding my business. And Drew Faust called me and said, I'd like you to take a look at a draft of this report. I took a look, and at first I rejected it. I said, that's not for me. She said, no, we're not just trying to do what we've been doing. We're trying to do something different, and I think this is for you. She convinced me. And that was in February 2018 when she convinced me, and I said I'd start in July of 2018. Of course, they had just appointed a guy I've known for 30 years, Larry Bacow, as president. And things were sailing right along, and then there was another incident. In April of 2018, a Harvard student, undergraduate student, was beaten by the Cambridge police pretty badly outside of the Harvard Law School. And I started, that happened on a Friday, I started on a Monday. So there you have yet another incident that stimulates things. We started this effort. How do we move Harvard? How do we position it so that everyone is able to thrive? We launched the effort with a survey, and this was the biggest survey in the history of Harvard University. 24,000 people filled out this survey, 44% of the campus. And basically the penultimate measure was, how many of you feel like you belong at Harvard? And the results will not surprise you, because the profile with the strongest feeling of belonging at Harvard was white, male, heterosexual, with educated parents, politically conservative or liberal, a US citizen, and either Christian or Jewish. Now, if you put the Jewish factor aside, that is precisely the profile that Harvard was set up for in 1636. So what that suggests is that for at least almost all of the 400 years, we have been skewing our benefits to attract the belonging, the positive belonging feeling in the same profile. And so that told us what we were solving for. How do we make it so that no matter what your biography, no matter what your background is, you can thrive at Harvard. You can do your best work while becoming your best self. So we set up this infrastructure. We have a new office. We have a new council. Joan is a member of the council. We're going to be doing a survey every year to track our progress. That builds in accountability. We're doing strategic planning. We have an innovation fund, an academy, new technologies, policies, and pedagogies. We're moving on this. And now that we're about to ramp up, we have another incident. I call it a dual pandemic incident. You got COVID-19 and you have George Floyd et al., Breonna Taylor, Nina Pop. And there's an uprising, ironically, very much akin to the uprising in 1968 when all of this started, all around the country and all around the world. And with that in mind, I'll close with this. This is a moment when we are going to say who we are as Harvard University. We have the right president in place in Larry Bacow, who says Harvard has for 400 years been excellent. Now we're after true excellence. It's something greater. It's something better. I'm reminded of the question that Dr. King asked in his last year of his life. He titled his last book this, "Where do we go from here? Chaos or community?" And I want you to understand that Harvard has made the decision that we're going in the direction of community, sustainable, inclusive excellence. We know, we are convicted about the fact that this is not about making Harvard great again. This is about making Harvard realize a greatness that we've never realized before, and we call it sustainable, inclusive excellence. I'll close with this. Harvard is 140 years older than America. And I think we have much to teach America about how to go in the direction of community rather than chaos. And if you just take a look around now, America is poorer with 41 million, 42 million people now newly out of work. We're sicker, 30% of the world's COVID cases and almost 30% of the world's COVID deaths. We're more stressed. There was a Washington Post article about a third of Americans showing signs of clinical anxiety and depression. We have fewer release valves, can't go to a ball game or a movie or a play or even a restaurant. We're in a situation where an unexpected pandemic has separated us and an unjust murder has brought us together. And now I'm convinced that now only an uncompromising embrace of our highest ideals will get us through all of this. Harvard has chosen community. And in this moment, in this celebration where we celebrate Dr. Amos and all that he has meant, it's time that we all choose community individually and as Harvard chooses it institutionally. That's the work we're doing together now with Dr. Joan Reed and Dr. George Daley. We're going to get there and with all of you. So thank you very much. Sustainable, inclusive excellence is the Harvard vision right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
Thank you. A challenge and a charge, but Harvard is up to it. We are all up to it. Thank you for your leadership. We're now going to turn to our awardees. And our first one is the one that Dr. Wilson has already mentioned. It's the 2020 Harold Amos Faculty and Diversity Award that is going to be given to Dr. Emans. But I also want to tell you some about the award and why this is so important at this time. This award really came about from nominations from throughout our Harvard Medical School and our Harvard Dental School community. It's about individuals who have advanced us as an institution in the space of diversity and inclusion and belonging. And an advisory committee with representatives from across our full community reviewed and discussed each nomination and unanimously recommended these individuals. Dr. Jeanne Inman is the Mary Ellen Avery Professor of Pediatrics at Boston Children's Hospital, and she is a recipient of the Diversity Lifetime Achievement Award. Today we honor her for her dedication and many initiatives that she's advanced at Boston Children's Hospital in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, work that she's been doing at Harvard Medical School for more than 50 years. Indeed, as a second-year medical student, she was one of the 12 women in the class of 1970. She was proud to sign the student petition to Dean Ebert in 1968, urging them to, quote, provide training at HMS for a substantial number of Black students. Since that time, she's continued her contributions to the advancement of diversity and equity through her leadership roles and the founding of key offices, serving on task forces and committees, mentoring and sponsoring individuals, faculty, and trainees. She's been instrumental in recruiting diverse faculty and facilitating groundbreaking research within her division on LGBTQ issues, including gender identity and expression, and on racial and ethnic health disparities in areas such as HIV, asthma, and other chronic illnesses. She's created programs that represent a sustained commitment to diversity, health equity, eliminating health disparities, and to inclusion. She's changed the culture and created permanent structures such as the Office for Faculty Development and the Office of Health Equity and Inclusion, and has created the Pediatric Health Equity Series and other initiatives. She's recruited clinicians and researchers who address health disparities. She has been a staunch supporter of our Office for Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Partnership, a role model and a friend. Dr. Jeanne Inman, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Last Thursday, my husband, John, and I celebrated our 50th reunion at Harvard Medical School. We weren't at the Harvard Club, and we weren't at Four Seasons, but on Zoom. Dean Daley was in one of the Zoom gallery view boxes for an hour Thursday night, remaining upbeat about the future and answering questions. Our Zoom gallery also reflected the lack of diversity in the 1960s. Our class had 12 women and 2 Black students. We were second-year students when Martin Luther King was assassinated, April 4th, 1968. Later in April, we presented our petition to Dean Ebert to recruit more Black students to the next class. We also pressed for the dean to establish a committee to improve the health of Black residents in our neighboring communities of Roxbury and Dorchester, and to strengthen research and teaching in social and community medicine at Harvard. Sounds familiar? Amazingly, Harvard Medical School did accept 15 Black students for the next class of 1973, albeit 14 men and 1 woman. I'm sure there were more talented Black women that could have been admitted also, something that we've certainly worked on since that time. I had the good fortune to be at Children's in Harvard Medical School and to create an interdisciplinary adolescent health training program and the Office of Faculty Development. I speak with great pride that Children's 3 years ago launched an Office of Health Equity and Inclusion with Dr. Valerie Ward, a radiologist, as the medical director. Kevin Churchwell knew I would keep making appointments with him until it happened. Through all of these programs, I've been fortunate to be able to mentor many diverse fellows and faculty at Children's. So I'd like to end by saying a sincere thanks to my fellows, colleagues, and leaders at HMS and Children's, Jim Mandel, Sandy Fenwick, and Kevin Churchwell. I would also like to say thanks to the Children's Division and department chairs, particularly Gary Fleischer, and to my family, including my husband, John Emans, spine surgeon at Children's, my 2 children, their spouses, and 5 grandchildren. And lastly, thanks to Alvin Poussaint for supporting decades of Harvard Medical students, and an extra special thanks to Joan Reed, who sets a high bar for all of us and keeps everyone accountable for the commitments we make. She does the same for presidents and CEOs of the hospital and the department chairs. Status quo is not the right answer. Hand waving is never acceptable. What is the impact? What are the accomplishments? What are the numbers? So thanks again for this very special recognition of our class of 1968 and all that we've been able to do at Harvard Medical School. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeanne. Thank you. Do you have your award there with you?
Yes.
Want to hold it up so everybody can see?
Sure.
Bernard, can we go back to Dr. Inman? There we go. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to turn to our next awardee, who is Dr. Hermioni Amonoo, instructor in psychiatry at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Her commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity started as a medical student at Harvard Medical School in 2007, and has continued throughout her residency at MGH, and has now spilled over into her role as a faculty member. Dr. Amonoo's contributions just over the past 2 short years are especially remarkable. She served as the inaugural chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee in the Department of Psychiatry at Brigham and Women's Hospital. It consists of physicians, social workers, nurses, psychologists, research staff, and trainees. Within this Diversity and Inclusion Committee, she's initiated diversity dilemma dialogues where all faculty are provided a safe forum to discuss and process diversity dilemmas that they encounter in their clinical work or environment. Further, she's been a fierce champion of recruitment efforts for the residency program with a specific focus on increasing the numbers of house staff from underrepresented minority groups. Specifically, she's modified the screening process for residency applicants, ensuring that at least 25% of all interviewed applicants are from underrepresented populations. Dr. Amonoo, congratulations.
Thank you. So a big gratitude to Dean Reed and Daley for their leadership and tireless effort in our medical school community to make it more diverse and inclusive. I am incredibly honored and humbled by this award and for who and what it stands for. I feel incredibly privileged to have been a part of the HMS community for almost a decade and a half now. And a lot of what I've done have been supported, and I've been mentored by numerous individuals over the past almost 15 years here. And I know that, I've been able to thrive and to be able to pay it forward and give back to the community, which is not always the case for everyone. I am incredibly grateful for my current chair, David Silverswag, who has been a fierce supporter of diversity and inclusion in a little microcosm of the Department of Psychiatry at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, and also for just the numerous mentors who literally it's almost impossible to name and count at this point. Over the past couple of weeks, we've had painful reminders of the importance of this work, not just in our institution at HMS and Harvard as a whole, but in this country. And now more so than ever, we all need to do all we can do to make things better for our sakes and the sakes of future generations. I am grateful for the work that we have been able to do and we continue to do in my department at the Brigham, especially with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, where we've engaged a multidisciplinary group of people to continue to make, again, our little microcosm more diverse and to bring people in to promote inclusion from all spheres. And as you know, we've been reminded that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Humbled and excited that we will continue to roll our sleeves to keep fighting the good fight to make this place, you know, as has been alluded to, a place where inclusion is like excellent and we can literally be like a beacon of light, not just for our immediate community here, but for the whole country. I'm also incredibly grateful to my husband, Edwin Amonoo, for his continued support in all my endeavors and also in my academic pursuits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muna. Thank you for your work. Our next award recipient is Dr. Allison Bryant, Associate Professor of Obstetrics, Gynecology, and Reproductive Biology at Massachusetts General Hospital. Dr. Bryant's dedication to equity and diversity goes back to her training at HMS. She's long argued that there can be no quality in care without equity. Her work, creating the equity dashboard of clinical care and its outcomes, has been a model that's now mirrored at other departments at Mass General. And her efforts have made significant and permanent difference on both how we care for patients and how we hire and support faculty and staff. It goes beyond the walls of MGH and Harvard Medical School. Dr. Bryant, congratulations.
Thank you so much. So I'm incredibly grateful to you all, to Dean Daley and Dean Reed, and to my colleagues and friends who have penned a nomination for this award that I really feel like I'm not even close to deserving. Those of you who've seen the opener of just about any talk that I give, you know, I tend to associate the start of my career and focus on diversity, equity, inclusion with a note on the front page of the Boston Globe in 2002 and a headline that read sort of simply, "Infant mortality of Blacks on the rise." And a chief resident OB/GYN at the time and heading into a high-risk OB fellowship, this was like a stark reality that I knew from caring for women and their families, but it hadn't ever been a part of any formalized curriculum of the learning that I'd done to date or in the work that I thought I had ahead of me in fellowship. So the desire to do more and to speak the language of health equity and to sit at the table where policies affecting the health and well-being of communities of color are made led me straight to 164 Longwood Avenue and the Commonwealth Fund Harvard University Fellowship in Minority Health Policy. So on the first day of that fellowship, Joan taught us that really all of our training in the health professions came with all manner of translatable skills that could transcend the one-on-one relationship between the provider and the patient to affect change in our communities and in all chambers of influence. So I'm really indebted to everyone who's enabled my proficiency as a change agent over these past few years. So clearly these are unprecedented times, and what keeps me up at night is the fear that the intersection between the really always been there maternal health crisis among Black and Indigenous people in particular, the age-old epidemic of structural racism and inequality, and this now overlay of the COVID-19 pandemic is going to tear at the fabric that holds so many of our communities together. But clearly our communities are strong and they're resourceful and they're resilient and they are deserving of a healthcare workforce that's inclusive and brave and humble all at once. So I'm deeply privileged to do the work that I get to do every day and could not ask for a more committed team with which to learn and grow. So all of my love and my gratitude to my work family, my work leaders, colleagues that stand with me arm in arm in this work, to my home family, so particularly my mother, who's that 646 dial-in number that you may see in the participants, who taught me volumes about motherhood and about equity, to my husband, Gary, who props me up as a partner as I move through this work, and to my sons, Cameron and Sebastian, who deserve a better world than the one we've built for them so far. Thank you so much.
Joan, you may be on mute.
Yes. So all of the recipients received the awards at home prior to this, and we were going to hold them up so that you could all see them. Our next recipient is Dr. Corey Harwell, Assistant Professor of Neurobiology at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Harwell embodies the phrase, quote, "to be the change you want to see in the world," end quote. He's established a model of inclusion and changed the culture not only through his diverse hiring practices, intentionally inclusive attitude, and continuous support through time and financial assistance of diversity programming on our campus. A core philosophy in the Harwell Lab is mentorship, especially to those who are from disadvantaged and underserved backgrounds. He imparts this ideal on all his students and makes sure that we make time on our busy schedules to teach and mentor local undergraduates and high school students. The impact of Dr. Harwell's work in changing the culture is and will be apparent in years to come as more students from various backgrounds walk the halls of Harvard Medical School. Dr. Harwell, congratulations.
So thank you. It's a tremendous honor to receive this award, and it's interesting how things come back around. So as I was a graduate student at MIT, I actually had the opportunity to meet Dr. Amos previously. So it's extremely humbling to receive this award in his name. And I'd like to thank you, of course, Joan, and Dean Daley for supporting these efforts and for your continued work in this area. And also the chair of my department, Mike Greenberg, for his efforts and continued efforts in increasing the diversity and the inclusive and community within our department. And I just wanted to actually take a side, because I think when we originally got the notice for this award, the original speaker, the keynote speaker for the Still lecture was Dr. David Satcher. And it was, I was pretty excited about this because actually about 21 years ago, I had a chance to meet Dr. Satcher when I was an undergraduate at Tennessee State. And I was able to dig up this, so this is when he was Surgeon General. I was able to dig up this kind of fake prescription pad where he's wishing me best health wishes. And I've had this still in a drawer. So this has made it throughout my undergraduate, graduate, postdoc training, and now in my almost 7 years as a faculty, and I still had that around. And I was just thinking about why you would hold on to, you know, this memento for this person. And I think part of it is that, you know, Dr. Satcher was a role model. He was someone to be admired, and, you know, someone who, you know, like me, was a kid from an HBCU and showed what could be accomplished and what's been possible. And it's been a little bit surreal for me since receiving the notice for this award to come to this realization that I now serve a little bit of that role for many of my own trainees. And it's an incredible privilege and also a little bit daunting. But if I could just take a minute to actually recognize some of the fantastic kids that I've had the privilege of being able to interact with, because it's one of the things in which I'm most proud. And I'll just start with Adrian Gonzalez Cerrillo, who was a dreamer and is now at Loyola University Chicago Law School. Nico Gomez, an MD PhD student at the University of Michigan. Diana Tran was applying to medical school this year. Anusha Pandian, who went on to get her master's and is now a senior research associate at Ultragenics. Busola Olakoya, who's I think on the call, is a Penn student at HMS. Inji Saror is a neuroscience major at the University of Chicago. And Martha Ordonez, a BBS student at Harvard Medical School. Claire Charpentier, a PhD student at George Washington. And Joseph Smittick, who's just graduating this year. Lauren English, a neuroscience PhD student at the University of Wisconsin, and Denson Carey, who I'm claiming, an MD student at Harvard Medical School, and Terrence Mensah, who I'm definitely claiming is an MD student at Harvard Medical School. And it's been my privilege to cross paths with those students and have some small role in helping to guide them in their growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harwell. Thank you. Thank you for your service and your leadership. Our next recipient is for the 2020 SHARON P. CLAYBORNE Staff Diversity Award. The recipient is Ms. Denise Brown, who is Staff Assistant in the Program in Medical Education at Harvard Medical School. Denise's close association with medical students at all levels has provided a forum for both faculty and students to have a safe space to discuss cultural and social differences. She's understood the importance of those differences within our community. Denise has created an inclusive environment for people she serves, and she continues to be a strong force in furthering the sense of equality and fairness in the Longwood medical area for the past 18 years. Someone that all the students know and has made a difference in so many lives. Ms. Denise Brown, congratulations.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Reed. I really appreciate your leadership and Dean Daley. I am so honored and humbled to receive this award. And I dedicate this award to all the students who came through the Office of Student Affairs in the 19 years that I've been in the Student Affairs Office. I'm just so humble and grateful for my colleagues, how we get together and we work as a team. But most of all, I would like to say thank you to Dr. Saldana for his mentorship, his leadership, and the love that he has for all of us. And once again, I would say I am so humbled to receive the SHARON P. CLAYBORNE Award, Diversity Award. It's such an honor, and I thank you, Dr. Reed, and Dean Daley for seeing the leadership that I bring for the community and for our students, so they can have a safe place to call home. And I thank God for everything that I've done within the community. I thank God for my husband of 35 years being by my side, supporting me and pushing me, and to my adult children that always says, Mom, you can do it. So I thank God for everyone who's on this Zoom call, and I hope and I pray that God will continue to bless you as he has continued to bless me. Once again, thank you again, Dean Reed. I'm so humble for this prestigious award. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's been our honor to recognize these outstanding individuals and to pay tribute to their work and contributions. It's through their vision and leadership that they've encouraged inclusion, they've changed our culture, they've helped set the tone for future efforts. This work is not easy, but they've shown us that through creativity, innovation, and commitment, we can create a culture that is respectful and welcoming of all, a culture where each of us can thrive and bring our best forward. Thank you to all of this year's recipients, to Dean Daley and Dr. Wilson for joining us in your presentation. We're living in very challenging times, changing times. It seems like when you wake up each morning, it's what's happened yesterday. As we face these dual pandemics, as Dr. Wilson talked about, and still not lose sight of our dedication to advancing science, education, clinical care service, it's important that we also take time to make sure and ensure that we are creating and sustaining a culture where there's respect, where there is a striving towards equity and social justice. where all can thrive, where all can feel that they can contribute and do their best. In these challenging times, sometimes we can feel sort of at a loss. But I want to use the words of James Baldwin, who said, and I quote, "The challenge is in the movement. The time is now," end quote. The time is now for us to come together, to learn from each other, to grow with one another, to be better than we have been, to be better together, to help raise our entire community. Making change is not just about what one office does or what one person does. It's what we as individuals and community do as we come together. We can be better. We will be better. We have leaders such as those who were recognized today, and leaders who are on this Zoom call and others in the community. Join us. The time is now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joan. And